Hi, and welcome to your guide on buying a house. And this is step number one. It's your guide to where to get started. And your guide today is Catherine. Catherine, thanks for being here.
Hey, Justin, and hey, everyone watching. Good to be here.
So, Catherine, so everyone can get to know you a little bit. Tell me this. If you were a neighborhood, any neighborhood in the world, what would be your spirit neighborhood?
So I knew this question was coming. And so I thought about it. And at first, I really wanted to do an international city somewhere. But in thinking about it, I realized I really just don't know any neighborhoods nearly as well as I know the neighborhoods in Atlanta. So we're going to stick to Atlanta. And I think my spirit neighborhood is actually the Lake Claire neighborhood of Atlanta.
How come?
And here's why. So I am at my core an introvert, but I like to go hang out with people, meet new people, do fun things, but I need some time to like get away and recharge. So I think Lake Claire is sort of like that. You're surrounded and super close to a lot of fun places in Atlanta. It's really easy to get to good restaurants and bars and everything, but it's a pretty calm neighborhood. It's got a very like calm and peaceful little neighborhood park. You've got good backyard space, eclectic and diverse personalities of houses and neighbors.
Yeah.
So I think that I would be Lake Claire.
Catherine, I can see that completely. I can definitely see that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. All right, so let's dig into it. Someone is thinking about buying a house. This is step number one. Man, where do you begin if you're thinking about buying a house?
So step number one is actually to talk to a realtor. And the reason I say that is because we know the whole process backwards and forwards. And if there's any one question that we don't know the answer to, we know who to point to in the direction to ask about that question. I always say it's best to go into this process well informed. Buying a house is generally, if not the largest, one of your largest investments you're going to make in your whole life. So it's a good thing to, go into this process knowing what to expect and making sure that you've met someone who's going to help guide you through that process so that you can make the best decisions for what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Catherine. And so obviously anyone watching this video in Atlanta, you can find Catherine and you can find us. But say you don't know somebody, you don't have a trusted real estate advisor. What do you look for in that person that you're going to start the process?
If you don't know anyone yet, I would say look for reviews. Like everyone can look for stuff online nowadays. It's the easiest way to look for answers to things. Look for someone who's gotten good reviews or a team that has good reviews from past clients. It's probably the easiest way to know whether something's good. That's what I do when looking at new restaurants and like whether or not I want to buy something on Amazon. So that's will be my recommendation there.
For sure. And so once somebody does that and they reach out, what happens? Like what is the first thing that happens when someone reaches out to you to start this process?
First thing that happens is I set up a time for us to talk. So before COVID-19, that was ideally meeting one-on-one, somewhere that we could really sit down and get to know each other, get to know what your goals are for buying a property, and be able to explain the whole process. Nowadays, I do that like this, through a Zoom call, FaceTime, just a long, conversation over the phone or however we can do it.
And why is it important for you to understand what people's goals are?
Because that's the best way to find the best fit. There can be a lot of different goals that go into the purchase of real estate, whether or not you want to live in it for yourself, a family member, if you want it to be more of an investment property, where you see yourself down the line and what you're hoping to get from this investment.
Cool. So people share their goals with you, and then what happens? Then you can magically make the house appear, or then they have other things to do? What happens after they share the goals?
So once you've shared your goals with me, we can sort of figure out how we can make that a reality, or what steps we need to take to make that a reality. So step number one, after we've discussed everything about what you're looking for, what that would look like, is figuring out, can you afford it? What budget do we need to work with? And so that's when I recommend talking to a lender Or if you haven't talked to a lender yet, at least getting some sort of grasp on what would work with your budget.
Yeah. Do most people come into this conversation already knowing what they want and what they're looking for and knowing their budget? Or is that something that you help people figure out through this conversation?
Some people come in like already super well prepared and informed. I would say the vast majority of people not as fine-tuned onto what they want. It's more of a process generally that I can help you sort of figure out what's available, what could work, and then we can sort of narrow down the options as we go.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, a lot of folks who probably are watching this may think, I know I want to buy a house, but I don't know those things. If I'm hearing you correctly, go ahead, reach out, get connected with someone, because you can actually help make that process of figuring those things out easier.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes it's like, if you have the idea, like, I want to buy a house in 2020 and 2021, that's just like a goal that I have. Or I like the idea of that, but I don't know if it's a reality or like what all I would have to do to make that happen. I say, let's start that conversation sooner rather than later. So if there are any things that you have to work on to make that a reality, I can put you in contact with some people who can help guide you to, like, maybe it's getting your credit in a better spot, or just saving up, different ways of saving up, looking at different areas. It's better to start sooner rather than later, just so you can have a better picture of what your options are and what you need to do to make it happen.
How soon should people start?
Some people, they find their house like at the first house they look at. Some people, they have no clue what they even really want, and it takes a little bit longer, but that's sort of my job, is to really, and getting to know your goals and what is important to you, and what you like. I can help guide you, or like if someone has no clue what they want, I can, use my knowledge and familiarity with Atlanta neighborhoods and price points and what type of properties would work best for your goals and help narrow that down for you. I would say the average, and this is what I've heard from people who look at all the statistics, is about 7 to 8 houses. If you've got a good idea of what you're looking for, people see about 7 to 8 houses before they find the one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that number would be higher, but like you said, I mean, that's your job, and that's the great thing about having this detailed conversation, is you can help make the process efficient for people and help them accomplish their goals.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Well, Catherine, this has been super helpful. If you were to give one secret or one inside piece of advice on getting started to buying a house, what would you say that is?
My secret or number one tip or advice would be to figure out your budget. And then, well, I guess more so in figuring out your budget, give yourself space. No one wants to be house poor. So ideally, you're not going to stretch yourself to your last dime and nickel to make this house a reality. So generally, if it's your first time home, it's going to be like you're grabbing onto a rung and moving up a ladder. But you don't want to make it a stressful experience for you down the line.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, is to know your personal budget and figure out what you can spend per month on the house, what you have saved for the down payment. And then on the next one, we'll get into the financing part of the process and the pre-approval, which will be the next step after this meeting. And so, Catherine, I really appreciate your insight today. Thanks for being our guide on how to start buying a house. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Nice
Awesome, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.
Bye.